Question 2. P cubed sorts items by their address codes. This is pseudocode for an algorithm that forwards items to regional depots. So back to the scenario again, if you weren't sure about the word depot, it did talk about regional sorting office. So forwarding items to regional offices. Now, you know I want you to read the pseudocode. First, it's translating it into, proper English as it were, before you look at the question. So let's actually try and do that. I'm going to read this in English. If code 0, if the character in the first position of the code is greater than or equals to capital A, and the character in the first position of the code is less than or equal to I, then send Midlands Depot to display. Else, if the character at the first position of the code is greater than or equal to J, and the character at the first position of the code is less than or equal to R, then send South Depot to display. Else, if the character in the first position of the code is greater than or equal to S, and the character in the first position of the code is less than or equal to Z, then send North Depot to display. Otherwise, send unknown code to display. Lovely example of selection there with 3 different options. So now we are asked to complete the table to show the output of the algorithm for the given input. So we've got a table and we have a code, and we'll look at our first one here. So you need to know the square brackets and the index position, otherwise you wouldn't understand, but most of you did. So we're looking at the first one, so we're looking at Q. So the first one says, so we're looking at Q. Q is it is greater than A, but it is not less than I. It is greater than J, and it is less than R. So this is where we're at. So we're going to go for South Depot here. We would expect that to say South Depot. Next one, V. The first code character is V. So let's get back into our. So it is greater than A, but it isn't less than I. It is greater than J, but it isn't less than R. It is greater than S, and it is less than Z. So now North. Now some of you wrote the alphabet out, which was fantastic to see that taking your time to work things out. It's really important. You've got plenty of time. Most of you tell me how you don't see why it's 2 hours long, but I think that the reason it's 2 hours long is just to make sure that you do think about questions and answers, and don't panic, and don't just rush, because the title of the paper is computational thinking, so you need to take that time. Right, the first character is 4, and so we do not have any. Does not fit any of our criteria, because our criteria is only letters rather than digits, integers. So we will have unknown code in that one there. Okay, unknown code. So what you needed to know on this question, you needed to know how to read your comparison operators, your greater than and your less thans. I think the people that got some of these questions wrong, you didn't know that. You needed to know that. That's really important. Greater than and equals to. Make sure you know that. You needed to understand what was being asked by the square bracket and the 0. So you need to understand that index position numbers are put inside brackets. Let's just check the mark scheme. Just make sure I actually worked that out right. There we go. In this exact order, obviously it needs to be in that exact order: South Depot, North, unknown code. And they were kind enough to accept it, even if you didn't write depot, and they were going to ignore your spelling and any extra that you wrote. And I actually put a capital D on depot, which obviously was incorrect, but it was accepted. So there is question 1C. 2A, sorry, question 2A.